Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Look, I want to start today by just asking you to look around wherever you are right now. Just do a quick scan.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you are, listening to this in a cabin deep in the woods, which sounds amazing, by the way, you are absolutely surrounded by them.
Oh, yeah. They're everywhere. The fine print of modern life.
Exactly. It's on the bottom of your toaster. It's stamped on the back of your TV. It's definitely on that little white brick you use to charge your phone.
And if you're brave enough to look, it is all over your monthly utility bill.
We are talking, of course, about the watt.
The watt. Yeah, it's a word we say constantly. A 60-watt bulb, a 1,000-watt microwave. But it's one of those terms that's kind of suffered from its own success.
How do you mean?
Well, we treat it like a brand name or like a size, small, medium, large, instead of what it actually is.
Which is the fundamental unit for how our entire civilization moves energy around.
That's the perfect way to put it. It's the currency of the physical world.
So that's our mission today. We're going to peel that little sticker off the toaster and really look at what's underneath. We've got a stack of notes here that'll take us from, the absolute basics.
The physics of it.
All the way to the cosmic scale. We're going to look at the history, the common mistakes that drive us crazy, and just the mind-blowing scale of it all.
We're going to go from the whisper of a radio signal to the roar of the sun.
So before we get to the galaxy brain stuff, we have to eat our vegetables. I have to define the term. Because if I went out on the street right now with a microphone and asked 10 people, what is a watt? I bet 9 of them would say something like, it's how bright a light bulb is.
Which is the classic misconception. It's understandable because for 100 years, that's how we bought light bulbs. But a watt has nothing to do with brightness, not directly.
Okay, so what is it?
It is strictly a unit of power.
Power. Now, in physics, that word power has a very, very specific meaning, right? It's not just about strength or influence.
Right. In the International System of Units, the SI system that scientists use, the watt is defined as the rate of energy transfer.
The rate, okay, that's the key word.
It is the key word. The fundamental equation, the one that basically runs the universe, is this. 1 watt equals 1 joule per second.
Okay, stop right there. I want to unpack that.
Yeah.
Because joule is one of those words that everyone hears in high school physics.
Yep.
Memorizes for the tests, and then immediately deletes from their brain to make room for, I don't know, song lyrics.
It happens to the best of us.
So if we don't get the joule, we can't get the watt. So forget the textbook. What is a joule? What does it feel like?
That is the right question to ask. Think of the joule as the stuff. It's the raw quantity of energy. It's the work you actually perform.
Give me a physical example.
Okay, look around you. Pick up something small. An apple. A standard apple weighs about 100 grams.
Okay, I'm holding a hypothetical apple.
Now, lift that apple 1 meter into the air, let's say from your waist up to about your shoulder. Congratulations, you just expended 1 joule of energy.
That's it. That felt like nothing.
It's tiny. 1 joule is a very small bucket of energy. It's just the energy needed to lift a small apple 1 meter against gravity. Now, here is where the watt comes in.
Okay.
The watt is all about time.
Right.
If you lift that apple from your waist to your shoulder in exactly 1 second, you are generating 1 watt of power.
So 1 apple plus 1 meter plus 1 second equals 1 watt.
Precisely. But let's say you're feeling a bit lazy. You take 10 seconds to lift that apple. You do it really, really slowly.
Okay, but I'm still moving the same distance. The mass is the same. Gravity is the same. So the joules, it has to be the same, right?
Exactly. You still did 1 joule of work, but because you took 10 seconds to do it, your wattage is only 0.1 watts.
I see. So the joule is what I did. The watt is how fast I did it.
Or how intense the effort was in that time frame. Think of it like water. A joule is a gallon of water. A watt is the flow rate.
Oh, I like that.
It's how wide you open the tap. You can fill a bucket with a trickle, that's low wattage, or you can fill it with a fire hose, which is high wattage.
But the bucket gets full either way.
Right. The amount of water is the same, but the rate is totally different.
That's a great analogy. It turns a static number into a dynamic action. It's all about movement.
And it's not just for electricity. This is another big misconception. Because we see watts on our appliances, we think it's an electrical term.
But it's not.
It's a physics term. You can measure the power of a horse, a steam engine, a nuclear reaction, or your own body in watts.
It just happens that electricity is where we need to measure that flow most often in our daily lives.
Exactly right.
Speaking of steam engines, though,
Yeah.
that brings us to the name, the Watt, named after James Watt.
And the irony here is just It's perfect. James Watt was a Scottish inventor, 18th century. He's famous for making massive improvements to the steam engine around 1776.
Which basically kicked off the Industrial Revolution.
It did. But here's the thing. James Watt died in 1819. The electrical grid, light bulbs, toasters, none of that was even a dream yet.
So the guy whose name is on every electrical device probably never even saw a light bulb.
Oh, definitely not. He was a mechanical guy. He dealt with pistons and valves and steam and heat. He was covered in grease, not wrapping copper wire.
So how does his name end up on my microwave?
It's a fantastic bit of history, really, and it's kind of about marketing. We'll get into the specifics later, but you have to understand that James Watt was the first person to really treat power as a product.
A product? What do you mean?
Before Watt, if you wanted work done, you used horses. And you didn't measure the power of a horse, you fed it and hoped it kept going.
Right.
But Watt built a machine. He had to sell that machine to, say, mine owners who are used to using ponies to haul stuff. He needed a conversion rate.
He had to be able to tell them, my new engine is worth 20 of your best horses.
Exactly. So James Watt literally invented the concept of horsepower as a marketing tool for his steam engines. He gave the world the first clear physical conception of power.
He commoditized it.
He did, and that's why decades later, when scientists were scrambling for a name for the unit of power, they picked him.
He made it something you could put on a receipt.
Precisely.
Okay, I want to ground this for a minute, because 1 joule per second, or lifting an apple, is great for a definition, but it feels very small. What does a watt feel like when we talk about real human effort? If I'm generating 1 watt, am I even breaking a sweat?
Not at all. As we said, 1 watt is just lifting an apple. To really feel it, we need a better workout. We've got a great example in the notes here, the stair climber scenario.
Oh, I love a good word problem. Lay it on me.
Okay, picture this. You have a person. Let's make him a pretty solid guy, a mass of 100 kilograms.
So that's about 220 pounds, a big guy.
Right. And he's standing in front of a ladder. The ladder is 3 meters high, so roughly 1 story of a building.
Okay.
And he climbs that ladder in 5 seconds.
Whoa. 3 meters in 5 seconds. That's moving. That's not a casual climb. That's a hustle.
He's definitely hustling. So let's calculate his power. Let's see how many watts he's generating. First, we need the work he did in joules.
And the formula for that is mass times gravity times height, right?
Correct. So we have 100 kilograms times the acceleration of gravity, which is about 9.8, times the height, which is 3 meters.
Okay, let's see. 100 times 9.8 is 980. Times 3, that's, what, just under 3,000? 2,940.
Spot on. So he did 2,940 joules of work moving his mass up that ladder.
That is a lot of apples.
It is. But now we need the power. And power is work divided by time. He did all that work in 5 seconds. So 2,940 divided by 5.
That's going to be just under 600. Let's call it 600 watts.
588 to be precise.
Yeah.
But 600 is a great number to work with. So a large man sprinting up a flight of stairs is generating about 600 watts of power.
600 watts. Is that a lot? I honestly don't have a feel for it.
For a human, it's incredibly high. That's a significant physical burst. If you've ever been on an exercise bike that shows your wattage, try to hit 600 watts. You might do it for a few seconds, but your legs will be on fire.
Absolutely. I feel like I'm dying if I try to hold 300 for more than a minute. So 600 is basically athlete level burst.
It is. It's unsustainable.
Yeah.
So let's look at sustained power. What's the idle speed of a human doing manual labor?
The laborer benchmark.
Yes. Over an 8-hour day, digging a ditch, moving boxes, consistent physical work. A healthy laborer can sustain an average output of about 75 watts.
75 watts.
75.
That is, honestly, that's a little humbling. A human being, this incredibly complex biological machine, works all day long and produces about the same amount of power as one of those old school incandescent light bulbs.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? We think of ourselves as these powerful beings, but energetically, we're basically dim light bulbs.
So if I'm just sitting here in this chair talking into a microphone, I'm putting out even less.
You're probably closer to 60 or 70 watts, and most of that is just waste heat. You're basically a space heater with anxiety.
Huh. Thanks for that. But this comparison is actually crucial for understanding history, isn't it?
Absolutely crucial. Before the steam engine, if you wanted to move something heavy, you needed muscle, human or animal. If you wanted 600 watts of continuous power, you'd need 8 people working in shifts.
And today, you just plug in a small motor.
You've outsourced the watts.
So we have the human scale. A sprint is 600 watts. A long workday is 75. What about the environment? What's a baseline for the planet itself?
The standard benchmark there is what's called the solar constant. If you go to the equator on a clear day, right at noon,
Okay.
and you measure the sunlight hitting a patch of ground that is 1 square meter.
So like a small rug or a beach towel.
Exactly. That patch of ground is receiving about 1 kilowatt of power from the sun.
1 kilowatt, that's 1,000 watts.
Roughly 1,000 watts. That's the energy bath we're all standing in when we go outside on a sunny day.
So the sun is beaming down about 13 human laborers worth of energy onto every single square meter of the ground.
That's a fantastic way to visualize it. Every time you lay down your beach towel, you've got 13 invisible laborers just pouring energy onto you.
No wonder I get a sunburn so fast.
So we've established this middle ground, right? The human scale, 75 watts, the 1,000 watts. But now I want to stretch this out. The source material breaks down the multiples and submultiples of the watt, and this is where it gets really wild.
Okay, let's do it.
We're going to zoom way into the invisible world and then zoom way out to the cosmos.
Let's start small, down the rabbit hole.
First stop, milliwatts. That's 1,000th of a watt.
What lives down here?
This is home to a lot of precision electronics. A typical laser pointer, the kind you use to play with your cat,
Yeah.
that's about 5 milliwatts.
That seems so tiny for something that bright.
It's very focused light, but in terms of raw energy flow, it's minuscule. Another great example is a hearing aid. A modern hearing aid runs on less than 1 milliwatt of power.
That is amazing efficiency.
Yeah.
It's listening, processing, amplifying, driving a tiny speaker, all on less than 1,000th of a watt.
It just shows you how far our microelectronics have come.
Okay, let's go smaller. Microwatts. 1 millionth of a watt.
Now we're getting into really delicate territory. This is the scale of the electrical signals in the human body.
We have electrical signals.
Oh, yeah. When you go to the hospital and they hook you up for an EEG to measure your brainwaves or an ECG for your heart, those machines are picking up signals that are in the microwatt range.
So our brains are operating on millionths of a watt.
The signals that we can detect on the outside, on the skin, are that faint, yes. It's also the scale for those little solar cells in old calculators. Remember those?
The ones that never died. I always wondered how they worked with just the dim light in an office.
They were just sipping on microwatts. They barely needed anything to run.
Okay, smaller still.
Femtowatts.
Femto. That sounds like a made-up word.
It's 10 to the minus 15 watts. 1/4,000th of a watt.
What on earth could possibly be that faint?
Radio signals.
Wait, really? The radio tower looks huge.
The tower itself blasts out thousands of watts. But by the time that radio wave travels 10 miles, bounces off a few buildings, goes through your car window, and hits that tiny little metal antenna, the energy that actually arrives is in the femtowatt range.
That is unbelievable.
It's like a ghost of the original signal.
Yet my car stereo can turn that into clear music.
That's the miracle of amplification. We build technology that listens to a whisper that's 1/4,000th of a watt and boosts it back up so we can hear it. It's the technology of listening to the very edge of nothingness.
Have we hit the bottom yet? Or is there smaller?
We can go to the attowatt, 10 to the minus 18.
Attowatt. Wow.
This is mostly used in things like underwater acoustics. The reference for sound pressure in water is measured on this scale.
Right.
We're really splitting hairs on an atomic level now.
It just highlights how incredibly sensitive our instruments have become. We aren't just measuring the roar, we're measuring the silence.
We really are, but now let's reverse course. Let's climb back up the ladder.
Great.
Past the hearing aid, past the human laborer, past the 1,000-watt space heater.
Let's go big. Kilowatts we know, that's the house.
Yeah.
What's next?
The megawatt, 1 million watts.
Now we're talking heavy machinery.
This is industrial scale. Think of a high-speed train, that Eurostar train that goes through the tunnel.
Yeah.
It can pull more than 12 megawatts of power.
12 megawatts. That's like 12,000 of those space heaters all running at once.
Just to move that train, it takes a lot of energy to push that much metal at 300 kilometers an hour. We also see this scale for things like large data centers or individual power plants.
Which brings us to the gigawatt.
1 billion watts. This is the city scale.
I always think of Back to the Future. 1.21 gigawatts.
And Doc Brown was actually pretty on the money with the magnitude. 1 gigawatt is roughly the average power consumption for a modern city of about 1.8 million people.
1 gigawatt. One major city.
It's a good rule of thumb. And here's a fun weather fact for you. Lightning.
Tell me.
An average lightning strike peaks at about 1 terawatt.
Wait, terawatt. We skipped a step. That's 1 trillion watts.
We did. Lightning is absurdly powerful, but, and this is a big but, only for a tiny, tiny fraction of a second.
They're tiny.
About 30 microseconds. So while its peak power is a terawatt, it doesn't actually deliver that much total energy. It's a flash in the pan.
So a lightning bolt is a terawatt spike. What about sustained terawatts? Where do we see that?
The terawatt is the global scale. If you take every single thing humans do, every car, every factory, every light bulb, every server farm.
The whole of human civilization.
The whole show. In 2019, our average continuous power consumption was about 18 terawatts.
18 terawatts. That is the constant hum of humanity.
18 trillion joules every single second.
That sounds absolutely massive.
It is, but compared to the Earth itself, the planet generates its own heat from the core. Radioactive decay, leftover heat from its formation.
Right.
The Earth's own internal heat emission is about 47 terawatts.
That's interesting. So human civilization is now using about a third of the power that the Earth itself radiates from its core.
We're catching up to the planet. We're becoming a geological force in our own right.
But we're still small fry.
Oh, we're tiny compared to the next level, the petawatt. 1 quadrillion watts.
Okay, now the numbers are just getting silly.
Now we are leaving the scale of anything humans consume and entering the scale of planetary bombardment. The total sunlight striking the Earth's atmosphere is estimated at 174 petawatts.
Whoa, pause there. Let me do that math.
Yeah.
We use 18 terawatts.
Right.
And the Earth is hit by 174 petawatts of sunlight.
That's right. And a petawatt is 1,000 terawatts. So the solar energy hitting our atmosphere is roughly 10,000 times greater than all the energy our civilization uses.
We are swimming in energy.
We are drowning in it. It's just a matter of capturing it. But here's a plot twist. Humans can create petawatts.
You just said we only use 18 terawatts.
We can create petawatts, but only for the most impossibly small fraction of a second.
Let me guess. Lasers again.
Lasers again. Specifically, the NOVA laser at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. It achieved a power output of 1.25 petawatts.
Hold on. You're telling me one lab in California fired a laser that was, for a moment, more than 100 times more powerful than the entire global power grid combined?
Yes. But, and here's the catch, only for about 0.5 picoseconds.
A picosecond. That's a trillionth of a second.
And this is where the math of the watt gets so fun. Remember, watts are joules divided by seconds. So to get a huge number for watts, you can either have a massive number of joules, or you can divide by a tiny, tiny, tiny number of seconds.
We're hacking the equation.
Exactly. The total energy in that entire laser shot, it was only about 600 joules.
600 joules? Wait a minute. Go back to our stair climber. Bob. He did almost 3,000 joules of work.
Right.
So you're telling me Bob climbing a ladder has 5 times more energy than this world record-breaking super laser?
In terms of raw energy quantity, the joules, yes. If that laser hit a cup of coffee, it would barely warm it up. But the delivery is what matters.
The rate.
Bob took 5 seconds to deliver his 3,000 joules. The laser delivered its 600 joules in half a trillionth of a second.
It's the difference between a gentle rain falling for a whole year versus a tsunami hitting all at once.
Perfect analogy. The volume of water might be the same, but the power, the destructive force, is totally different.
So how do they even do that?
They use a technique called chirped pulse amplification. Imagine you have a huge crowd of people trying to get through a single door.
Okay.
That's your energy pulse. If they walk through single file, the power at the door is low, 1 person per second.
Right.
What CPA does basically is it stretches that line out, amplifies everyone so they become giants, and then at the very last moment, it compresses the line so that every single giant runs through the door at the exact same instant.
A billion giants squeezing through the door in a picosecond.
And for that tiny moment, the intensity, the wattage is astronomical.
That's the perfect illustration of why the per second part of the definition is so important.
It's everything.
Okay, final boss level, the yottawatt, 10 to the 24th watts.
The yottawatt, this is the sun. The total power output of our star is 382.8 yottawatts.
I can't even hold that number in my head.
Think of it this way. The sun outputs about 2 billion times the power that actually hits the Earth. That 174 petawatts we talked about, that's just the tiny crumb that happens to fall on us.
And that crumb is enough to power our world 10,000 times over.
And the rest, it just blasts out into the void, a constant, unimaginable roar of energy.
It really makes you feel small, doesn't it? From the femtowatt whisper of a radio to the yottawatt scream of the sun.
And we're just sitting here in the middle trying to keep our lights on.
Okay, so we've done the scale, but I want to circle back to the name, James Watt. We established he was the scheme guy, not the electricity guy. So how specifically did his name end up on my light bulb?
It's one of history's great branding exercises. You have to imagine being an engineer in 1882. The electrical industry is brand new. It's the Wild West. People are measuring power in all these weird, clunky units. Foot-pounds, gravity force, you name it.
It's messy. You can't build a global industry if you can't even agree on what a unit of power is.
Exactly. So this guy, C. William Siemens, he stands up at this big science conference and proposes they name the unit of power after James Watt.
And his argument wasn't that Watt discovered electricity.
No, not at all. His argument was that Watt was the first person to treat power as a commercial product. As we said, he commoditized it.
He made it something you could measure and sell.
Siemens's argument was that James Watt gave the world a physical conception of power. He made it tangible, and so the scientists agreed.
So every time I pay my electric bill, I'm kind of participating in the market that James Watt created.
In a way, yes. He didn't know what an electron was, but he knew how to sell the ability to do work.
Now, the actual definition of the watt has been refined a bit since then, right? It's not just a name.
It has. This is for the metrology nerds out there. Originally, they created something called the International Watt, and it was a practical unit. It was defined by, physical experiments.
Like the prototype kilogram they kept in a vault in France?
Oh, a similar idea.
Yeah.
But physicists hate that stuff. Artifacts can change, they can degrade. They want absolute units that are derived from fundamental constants.
So meters, kilograms, seconds.
Right. So in 1948, they officially redefined it. They moved from the international watt to the absolute watt.
Did that change the value? Did everyone's light bulbs get dimmer?
No, this is a tiny change.
Mm-hmm.
1 absolute watt equaled 1.000019 international watts.
This is totally unnoticeable.
For the average person, completely. But for precision science, it was a necessary fix. And since 1960, the absolute watt has been the standard, 1 joule per second.
And just to close the loop for the electrical crowd, how does it relate to volts and amps? That's the other formula we all learned.
Right. The electrical definition is that 1 watt equals 1 volt times 1 ampere.
W equals V times A.
Exactly. If you have 10 volts pushing 2 amps of current, you have 20 watts of power.
Simple enough. But I feel a gotcha coming.
There's always a gotcha in electricity. That simple formula works perfectly for direct current DC or for simple things like a heater. But when you get into alternating current, AC, with motors and things, it gets more complicated.
Let's not go there today.
No, that's a whole other deep dive on something called power factor.
Okay, but there's another distinction that drives me crazy, and I know it drives you crazy too. It's the most common point of confusion.
Oh, I know exactly where you're going.
Watt versus watt hour.
Yes. And the dreaded phrase, watts per hour.
It's like nails on a chalkboard. Please, set the record straight for everyone once and for all.
Okay. It's power versus energy.
Right.
Power measured in watts is the rate. It's the speed. Energy measured in watt hours is the quantity. It's the total amount.
Use the car analogy. I find that really helps.
Perfect. The watt is your speedometer. I'm going 60 miles per hour. That's your power.
Okay.
The watt hour is your odometer. I have traveled 60 miles. That's your energy.
So if I have a 100-watt light bulb, that's its speed. It consumes energy at a rate of 100 joules every second.
Correct. And if you leave that 100-watt bulb on for 1 hour, you have used 100 watt-hours of energy.
And if I have a 50-watt bulb, but I leave it on for 2 hours?
50 watts times 2 hours is 100 watt-hours. You've used the exact same quantity of energy, even though the first bulb was twice as powerful.
It just did it twice as fast.
Exactly. And this is why saying watts per hour is almost always wrong. When someone says, this toaster uses 1,000 watts per hour.
It makes no sense. It's like saying I'm driving 60 miles per hour.
Which would be acceleration. So unless you were talking about a power plant literally accelerating its output, the phrase is meaningless. You just mean watts. Or if you're talking about total consumption, you mean watt hours.
This has been a public service announcement.
Please check your units.
There's one more distinction we need to make, especially when talking about power plants.
Yeah.
The difference between electrical megawatts and thermal megawatts.
The little subscript letters.
Yeah.
MW sub E versus MW sub T.
Right. You see this in technical documents, and it's so important for understanding efficiency, or more often, inefficiency.
Yeah, walk me through it with a nuclear plant, because the numbers in the notes are pretty staggering.
Okay, so take the Ambals plant in Argentina. The source material lists its output as 2,109 megawatts thermal, MOIDed. That is the raw heat, the sheer violence of splitting atoms inside the reactor core.
2 gigawatts of raw heat, that's a lot.
It is, but the electrical output, the MW, the stuff that actually comes out of the power lines, is only 648 megawatts.
Wait, so you're putting in over 2,000 units of heat, and you're only getting 648 units of electricity out. That's barely 30% efficiency.
It's about 30 to 33%, and that is completely standard for almost all thermal power plants. Coal, gas, nuclear, it doesn't matter.
So where does the other 70% go? You're splitting the atom, creating this immense power, and you throw 2/3 of it away.
We dump it, it goes up to cooling towers as steam, or it gets pumped into a river as warm water. That's the waste heat.
That seems incredibly wasteful.
It is, but it's not bad engineering. It's just physics. The second law of thermodynamics demands a tax. You cannot convert heat into work with 100% efficiency.
So when I read a news article that says a new power plant will produce 2,000 megawatts, I need to be very skeptical.
You have to ask, is that the heat you're making? Or is that the electricity I can actually use? Because if they're quoting the thermal number, they're inflating the useful power by a factor of 3.
That is a huge gotcha for anyone trying to understand our energy grid.
It really is. We're still just boiling water to spin a wheel, just like James Watt was doing.
In a lot of ways, yeah. Whether it's burning coal or splitting atoms, we're just finding very fancy ways to turn a turbine.
Which is why something like a solar panel is so different. It goes straight from light to electrical watts. But
yeah,
that's a topic for another day.
For sure.
Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground. We climbed the ladder with Bob at 600 watts. We dug ditches at 75 watts. We've looked at the 174 petawatts of sunlight hitting the planet, and we have stared into the 382 yottawatt face of the sun.
We also corrected some grammar along the way. No more watts per hour.
Never again. And we learned that our entire civilization runs on about 18 terawatts of continuous power.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? For me, it's that the watt isn't just a number on a sticker, it's a common language.
It is. It lets us compare the heartbeat of a mouse in milliwatts to the output of a star in yottawatts using the same ruler. It unifies biology, machines, and the cosmos.
And it also shows us the potential.
How so?
Well, we kept coming back to that one number. The Earth receives 174 petawatts of solar energy.
Right, and we use 18 terawatts.
That means the energy striking the planet is roughly 10,000 times more than everything we use to run our civilization.
We are swimming in an ocean of energy that we barely even dip our toes into.
Exactly. We are scraping and drilling for fossil fuels while being constantly bathed in 10,000 times our needs from above. The watt helps us quantify that gap. It shows us just how small our consumption is compared to what's available if we can just figure out how to catch it.
That's a provocative thought to end on. We're not energy poor. We just need better buckets.
Better buckets, measured in watts.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the power of the watt. Next time you flip a switch, think about the joules per second flowing through that wire and the yottawatt star that likely started it all.
See you next time.
Keep wondering.